Good morning, students. This is lecture 6th for drug discovery and drug design to you. Now, in a previous lecture, we discussed about theory of drug receptor interactions, and we completed about the one theory, occupancy theory, the other theory, the other theory, uh, induced fit theory. Now you have two more theories left over. One is macromolecular perturbation theory and the other one is two-state model of receptor activation. Now the third method, the third theory of drug receptor interaction, that is macromolecular macromolecular perturbation theory. This is the third theory of drug receptor interaction, macromolecular perturbation theory. Now here the meaning of perturbation is alteration or alteration. The meaning of perturbation is alteration. Now according to macromolecular perturbation theory, when a drug interact with the receptor, say this is the drug, this is the receptor. When a drug interact with the receptor, there are two type of macromolecular perturbation occurs in a receptor site. Two type of macromolecular alteration or macromolecular perturbation occurs in a receptor site when drug interact with it to form a DR complex. Now when drug interacted, this is interaction. When a drug interacted with the receptor, there are two type of macromolecular perturbation or macromolecular alteration, change in the conformational structure of receptor. So the first macromolecular perturbation will be a specific conformational macromolecular perturbation. A specific macromolecular perturbation, this is first type of change or first kind of alteration in the conformational structure of receptor. A specific conformational macromolecular perturbation. The second type will non-specific macromolecular perturbation. Are you following? So these two type of macromolecular perturbations are happen in the conformational structure of receptor. When it happened, when the drug interacted, when the interactions between drug and receptor occurs, there are two type of conformational changes or conformational perturbations are happen. One is the specific conformational macromolecular perturbation. The other one is non-specific macromolecular conformational perturbation. Now, the first type of change, the specific conformational macromolecular perturbation leading to the agonistic activity. I can explain later what is agonistic activity. Now, you can see if a if there is a specific conformational macromolecular perturbation that happen during the interaction of drug with a receptor that leading to a agonistic activity from the drug. Now during the interaction of drug with receptor, if non-specific macromolecular perturbation happen or initiated, this leads to antagonistic activity. Are you following? When a drug bind with its target, that is when a drug bind with the receptor, if the receptor initiated a specific conformational macromolecular perturbation, I already told the perturbation will be the meaning of alteration. If a drug bind with the receptor through a specific conformational macromolecular perturbation, then we may observe agonistic activity from the drug. Now, if a drug receptor interaction through a non-specific macromolecular perturbation leading to antagonistic activity, that is agonistic activity and antagonistic activity. Coming to agonist and antagonist, is it clear? It is a simple phenomena. According to macromolecular perturbation theory, when a drug interacted with the receptor, there are two types of macromolecular perturbations are happen or occurs. One is specific conformational perturbation, non-specific conformational perturbation. Now, if a specific conformational perturbation leading to agonistic activity from the drug, a non-specific conformational perturbation leading to antagonistic activity from the drug. So, agonistic activity or antagonistic activity from the drug depends upon a conformational perturbation of a receptor. If there is a specific conformational change leading to agonistic activity, if there is a non-specific conformational change that leading to antagonistic activity. Coming to what is agonist and what is antagonist. Now, agonist. Now, a drug molecule, after binding with the receptor, if show its effect on cellular function. Any drug molecule after binding with the receptor, if initiated, its effect on cell functions or cellular functions called as agonistic drug. For example, earlier we discussed about hypertension. Calcium plus 2 entry into the cell. Calcium plus 2 entry into, this is receptor. Calcium plus 2 entry into the cell. Combination with calmodulin. Combined with calmodulin to form calcium calmodulin. Which initiated or which promote MLCK enzyme, which promoted the MLCK enzyme to be transform myosin into myosin phosphate. Now, this we already discussed. So, I will give a briefing regarding the agonistic activity from the drug. Now this is a vascular smooth muscle cell. This is a respective receptor. This is a ion channel, calcium ion channel, where the calcium entry occurs through this channel into the cell. After that, the calcium bind with calmodulin to form calcium calmodulin, which is a promoter or activator for MLCK enzyme, myosin light chain kinase enzyme, leading to myosin phosphorylation into myosin phosphate. Phosphorylation of myosin into myosin phosphate leads to constriction of blood vessel. This we observed. Now, if under any circumstances, under any condition, if calcium entry, the calcium entry increases, entry of the calcium plus 2 ion into the vascular smooth muscle cell if increases than the normal. If its entry increases than the normal, then what happens? The calcium plus 2 concentration will be increased. It increases. Now thereby concentration of calcium calmodulin increases. MLCK is more activated. Thereby the rate of phosphorylation of myosin into myosin phosphate increases. That leads to longer constriction of blood vessel, causes hypertension. So this we discussed earlier class. Now this is the mechanism, molecular level mechanism involved in the cause of hypertension. Now coming to agonistic activity. Now we have a drug, a prazosin. A prazosin will be the drug which bind. It is an antihypertensive drug. Antihypertensive drug prazosin. It bind with the receptor. After binding to the receptor, you see what happens. It initiated the receptor. Now after binding a prazosin to the receptor, the drug initiated through the receptor to close this channel, to close this gate. For what purpose? To prevent the calcium entry. So a receptor, when drug bind with the receptor, which initiated or which induced to close the gate, calcium plus 2 gate, through the receptor in order to prevent the calcium plus 2 entry. Now what happens? When calcium entry is prevented, calcium calmodulin concentration decreased, MLCK activation decreased, rate of phosphorylation decreased, so that the constriction of blood vessel will be released, that leading to relieved from the hypertension. So what are the consequences you observed for this mechanism? That is, a drug after binding with the receptor, what it initiated? It initiated to be close the calcium plus 2 gate in order to prevent calcium plus 2 entry, to reduce calcium calmodulin concentration, to reduce the MLCK activation, to reduce the phosphorylation, rate of phosphorylation of myosin into myosin phosphate, leading to relaxation, relieving from the constriction of blood vessel. That is called as relaxation. That overall leads to the relieved from the hypertension, a form of a kind of disease. Now here in this case, the drug after binding to the receptor, it shows its action on a cellular function. It changes the cellular functions. It corrected the cellular functions. Therefore the drug is called as agonist. Is it clear? What is agonist? Agonist is the drug which, when bind with the receptor, initiated some corrections or initiated its action on a cellular function to be correct all the cellular function, to relieve from cellular effect or disease, called as agonistic drug. How agonistic drug arised? The agonistic drug is aroused when the drug interacted with the receptor. If the receptor changes a specific conformational perturbation that leads to agonistic activity. Now coming to the antagonist. Agonist and antagonist. Now a drug molecule, any kind of a drug molecule which is capable to bind only with receptor. Any drug molecule which is capable to bind only with receptor but not initiated or not shows any effect on cell function, called as antagonist. What are the difference between these two? Agonist, after binding it show its effect on cell function to correct it. Antagonist, after binding with the receptor it does not show any effect on cell functions. It prevented. Antagonist, after binding to its receptor, it prevented only the access of antigens, but not show any action upon the cell function, called as antagonist. Now coming to agonist. Agonist, after binding with receptor, it prevented the access of antigen. It does not allow to bind with the receptor, antigen to bind with the receptor. Simultaneously it will correct the cell function. It shows its action on cell function. Whereas antagonist, after binding with the receptor, it prevented only the access of antigen upon receptor but not show any effect on cell function, called as antagonist. So agonist and antagonistic drug. Agonistic mechanism, antagonistic mechanism arised from the macromolecular perturbation. If there is a specific macromolecular conformational perturbation leading to agonist, if there is a non-specific conformational perturbation leading to antagonistic. So this is about theory of drug receptor interaction of macromolecular perturbation theory. You have a last theory. Now you have a last theory, that is fourth one, two-state model of receptor activation. So this is the last theory which explains the interaction between drug and receptor, two-state model of receptor activation. Now, in the absence of agonist, just now we discussed what is agonist. In the absence of agonist, a receptor can be existed in the two states. The receptor can be existed two conformations at its equilibrium. Two conformations at its equilibrium. One conformation is called as resting state. The other conformation is called as active state. Are you following? In the absence of agonist, the receptor existed in a two states at its equilibrium. One is called as resting, the other one is called as active. That is, say R is in equilibrium with R star. R and R star. So the receptor existed in the two conformational states in the absence of agonistic drug. One is called as R is the receptor. Now R stands for the receptor under resting state. R star stands for active state of receptor, active state of the receptor. So at the equilibrium, this is equilibrium. At the equilibrium, in the absence of drug, there is no drug. In the absence of drug, the receptor will be existed in the two conformational states at its equilibrium. One is called as resting state of receptor, the other one is called as acting state of receptor. Resting state and active state. Now, when we apply a drug, now we are applying a drug. This is drug. This is drug. When we apply drug, the drug may be bound. The drug may be bound with the receptor in its resting state, or the drug may be bound to the receptor in its active conformational state. Are you following? So a receptor existed in the two conformational states in the absence of drug. One is resting state, other one is active state. Now when we apply drug, the drug molecule may be bound with a receptor under resting state, or a drug may be bound with a receptor under its active state to form drug receptor complex. Now for visibility, I am writing top. Say this is receptor in its equilibrium R star. Now this is resting state, this is active state. Now when we apply a drug to the receptor, now a drug may bound either with resting state of receptor or with active state of receptor to form a respective complex. DR complex. DR complex. Now here, this is in the equilibrium between DR star complex. DR star complex. Are you following? A drug may be bound with any conformation, either any conformation of a receptor, that is active conformation or a resting conformation, to be formed DR complex as well as DR star complex. Is it clear? Now coming to agonistic drug. An agonistic drug always initiated the equilibrium towards DR star. Any agonistic drug will initiated the equilibrium towards the DR star formation. If this is the drug belonging to agonist, if it is agonist, the agonistic drug preferably bound with active state of receptor, not to the resting state. Thereby it initiated the equilibrium towards the formation of DR star and exhibited maximum its biological activity. So in the presence of agonist, the equilibrium will be shifted towards the formation of DR star. That means agonist bind preferably with active state of a receptor to form drug receptor in active state complex, from which a maximum response, biological response, will be observed. Is it clear? Now coming to the one more topic, that is partial agonist. Now, a partial agonistic drugs may also bound with a active state of receptor, but not to the extent of a pure agonistic drug. That is, a partial agonistic drugs are also bound with an active state of a receptor, but not to the extent of binding between the active state of receptor to that of pure agonistic drug. Therefore, however, it bind with active state of receptor, but not the equal extent to that of the pure agonist. Hence, the biological response or biological activity for partial agonist is less active, less active, less active. So this theory is called as two-state model of receptor activation, resting state and active state. If a drug bound with active state of receptor, which forms active state of DR complex, the drug receptor complex, from which maximum response, maximum activity would be elicited. This is called as two-state model of receptor activation. So with this, the theory involved in the drug receptor interactions will be completed. What are the theory we discussed? One is occupancy theory, other one is induced fit theory, the third one is macromolecular perturbation theory, the fourth one is two-state model of receptor activation. So with this, the receptor activation topic or interactions will be completed. Now we are going to shift to another new topic, that is drug discovery. Drug discovery without lead. The drug discovery without lead. I can explain for easy understanding the topic. Now, what is lead? Lead is a model compound. Lead is a model structure. It may be called as leader. Lead may be model, or leader. A model structure or model molecule. Lead is a model molecule. Now, most of the drugs available in the marketplace were designed and synthesized based on the structure of some other molecules. Most of the drugs which are nowadays available in the marketplace were designed and synthesized from some model compounds. By seeing some model compounds, they are called as lead compounds. Now, why these compounds were designed and synthesized? To reduce or to minimize the unwanted effect, the unwanted physical properties, or to improve the activity of model compound. Now we have one model compound. We have, say for example, we have one model. This is the model. Say this is the model compound. It has some biological, a particular biological activity. It has some biological activity. Now, but unfortunately, if it associated with some unwanted physical property like toxicity, like insolubility, like absorption problem, like metabolic problem, etc. So all these unwanted physical properties reduce its activity. Are you following? This is one model compound I have. However, it is biologically active. It has some promising biological activity, but because of its unwanted property, unwanted physical property like toxicity, like insolubility, that is, it suffers in the solubility, it suffer if it suffer in the absorption, if it suffers in the distribution or it suffers in the metabolism, whatever it may be, called as unwanted odor, smell, color, comes under unwanted physical property. However, it is a good one. Good biologically active compound, model compound, but due to its unwanted physical property, it is unable to apply, unable to administer, because it's showing some toxicity or any other. Therefore, what we have to do? We have to modify its structure. We have to design a new structure in such a way. We have to design a new drug structure in such a way to minimize all the unwanted properties and to improve its biological activity based on the model structure. Is it clear? So a model structure, if has any unwanted physical property or if it shows side effects, then we have to design a new drug molecule with the same biological activity in such a way by seeing from the structure of model compound. From the model compound structure, we have to design a new structure in such a way to be minimize all the unwanted physical properties and to improve its biological activity and to retain the same activity. Now, if we got any compound designed has more activity than this compound, the compound which we designed based on what structure? Based on the structure of model. So a compound which we designed, why should we design? We should design a new structure based on the structure of model for eliminating unwanted properties and for improving the biological activity. So we have designed after that. So whatever the structure we designed based on the structure of model, if shows higher activity than the model, the first become a leader for the drug structure which we designed. So this is called as lead. So what is lead? A lead is a model compound for future drugs. A lead will be the model compound for future drugs. Now this topic we will discuss in the later section. Now coming to drug discovery without leader, without model. This discovery is called as serendipity discovery. Serendipity, unexpectedly. The drugs which are discovered unexpectedly. Called as serendipity discovery. Now the drugs which are discovered unexpectedly without based on structure of any other, called as drug discovery without lead, without seeing any other structure, accidentally some biologically active compound may be obtained during the research work, called as drug discovery without lead. Now coming to the topic, there are two important rare drugs which were discovered accidentally, which were discovered without seeing any model. Are you following? A discovery of drug accidentally or a discovery of the drug without based on the model structure is called as without lead. There is no lead, but the drugs has been discovered. How? Accidentally. Now there are two important drugs, rare drugs, which were discovered without lead, that is accidentally. They are, one is penicillin, the other one is Librium. Now we are discussing why only penicillin, why only Librium. We are studying or discussing with respect to the topics included in your syllabus. In your syllabus, only two topics were included under drug discovery without lead. One is penicillin, other one is Librium. Coming to penicillin, discovery of penicillin. Discovery of penicillin. Now this is the discovery drug without lead, accidental discovery. Now penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928. So the penicillin was discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928. Let us see how penicillin was discovered by him. Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming he is a bacteriologist. He is a bacteriologist. He is a bacteriologist. He worked on many pathogenic bacteria. What is the pathogenic? The bacterium which are harmful to the human, called as pathogenic bacteria. So he is Alexander Fleming. He is a bacteriologist. He working on a pathogenic bacterial strain. A pathogenic bacterial strain. A pathogenic bacterial strain. For the purpose of study of pathogenic nature or pathogenic bacteria, he prepared a culture of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. As he is a bacteriologist, he always working on a pathogenic bacteria. During that, he prepared, for the purpose of study, he prepared a culture of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. A Staphylococcus aureus bacterial culture like this. This is the petri dish which has a agar medium. Agar medium. He introduced a Staphylococcus bacterium strain on the agar medium and prepared its culture. This is culture. He prepared, this is petri dish. Petri dish. And he prepared a bacterial culture of Staphylococcus aureus and he kept on his research bench under open air. The culture will be kept under open air. Are you following? So Alexander Fleming, who prepared a culture of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria for some purpose of its study, and a culture plate were kept on his research bench in the laboratory under open air system, and he went for his vacation. Alexander Fleming went for vacation. He went for his vacation. After completion of his vacation, he came back to the laboratory and he noticed that some green color mold, he noticed in the laboratory that some green color mold is growing on a culture plate of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. This is the culture plate which he kept on his research bench under open air, and he went for his vacation. So when he came back to the laboratory, he noticed that some green color mold like this, some green color mold is growing on a Staphylococcus aureus bacterial culture plate. In addition, he noticed the two things. One is a green mold is noticed on or growing on a culture plate, as well as whatever the Staphylococcus aureus bacterial culture he prepared, this mold kills the Staphylococcus aureus bacteria which is pathogenic. That is, this is the green mold. A green color mold is normally it is not happen, but unfortunately it is happen in the research laboratory of Alexander Fleming. That is, green mold is growing on a culture plate of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. So a green mold is grown, as well as it kills S. aureus bacteria, kills S. aureus. S. aureus bacteria. Later he studied, further he studied why green mold is growing, and he extracted all the crude extract of green mold, extracted the green mold. He extracted a crude green mold, and further studied that this green mold is able to kill the other bacterium. This green mold is able to kill, is responsible to kill the S. aureus bacteria or other bacterial strains. And he also suggested that this green mold is the excrete of Penicillium notatum bacteria. He also suggested that whatever the green mold which is growing on a culture plate will be responsible or will be the excrete of Penicillium notatum bacteria. And he extracted all the green mold and studied that the green mold acting as a good antibacterial agent, he named it as it came from the Penicillium, it is the excrete of Penicillium notatum bacteria, and he named the green mold as a penicillin, as it shapes out of penicillin. It shapes out of a penicillin. Its shape look like the green mold shape look like a penicillin, and it came from Penicillium notatum bacteria. It is an excrete. Therefore, it is named as a penicillin. Later, he suggested that the penicillin could be used as a good antiseptic antibiotic. Penicillin could be used as an antiseptic antibiotic. So this is the story, a brief story behind the discovery of penicillin. Is Alexander Fleming initially thought to discover the penicillin? No. The penicillin was discovered accidentally. How? Because to study, Alexander Fleming prepared a culture plate of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria and kept on in his research laboratory in the open air, and he went for his vacation. After, when he came back to the laboratory, he noticed the two things. One is a green mold is growing on a culture plate, and this green mold is responsible in killing of the Staphylococcus aureus bacteria. After his further study, he suggested this green mold is responsible to kill the bacteria. Therefore, he suggested it as a good antibacterial agent, and further study indicated the green mold is the excrete of Penicillium notatum bacteria, which traveled through the air from the other laboratory of the same institution and grown on the culture plate of Staphylococcus aureus bacteria, and it excretes some material whose color is green. So the green mold is extracted and named it as a penicillin. Why named it as a penicillin? Because it shapes out like a pencil. Therefore, he named it as a penicillin and suggested it could be used as a good antiseptic antibiotic. So this is the one of the important drug discovered without the model or without the lead compound. Now coming to the second. Now coming to the second drug, Librium. Librium. Now Librium is also discovered without the lead. Now Librium is the first benzodiazepine drug. Benzodiazepine drug. It is the first benzodiazepine drug. What is benzodiazepine? Benzodiazepine will be the structure where a benzene ring is fused with 7-membered ring which consisting 2 nitrogen diazo. Epene stands for 7-membered ring. Benzodiazo, benzene 2 nitrogen. Epene stands for 7-membered ring. So a benzene fused with the 7-membered ring which including the 2 nitrogen. Therefore it is a benzodiazepine based. So Librium is the first benzodiazepine drug. It was discovered by Dr. Leo Sternbach. Dr. Leo Stern. Librium was discovered by Dr. Leo Sternbach. It is an accidental discovery. Its discovery will be the without lead, without any model compound he discovered. Therefore it is a accidentally discovered drug or serendipity discovered drug. Let us study how Dr. Leo Sternbach discovered the Librium. Its story about the discovery. Now first, Leo Sternbach thought to prepare some benzoxadiazepine drugs. First he thought to prepare, not thought to prepare Librium. First he thought to prepare benzoxadiazepine, that is this is benzene ring with a 7-membered ring. Nitrogen here, double bond here. Now oxygen here. R1 here, R2 group here, some X group, some Y group. This is benzoxadiazepine. Say structure 1. So he first thought to prepare a benzoxadiazepine. Benzene oxadiazepine, 7-membered ring. Epene stands for 7-membered ring. So he first thought to prepare benzoxadiazepine. Now after synthesis, he synthesized. He thought and synthesized. He thought to prepare benzoxadiazepine and he synthesized in the laboratory. After its synthesis, when X is equal to 7-chloro when X is equal to 7 chloro, Y is equal to hydrogen, Y is equal to hydrogen, and R1 is equal to phenyl ring, R2 is equal to CH2N CH3 CH3 N-dimethyl amine system. Are you following? Now first he designed and he thought to prepare this structure. After its synthesis with a functional groups, like X group will be the 7 chloro at 7 position, Y will be the hydrogen, R1 is the phenyl, R2 group will be the N-dimethyl amine system. So these are the groups. Now a compound 1 with these functional groups 7 chloro, hydrogen, phenyl, N-dimethyl amine. After its characterization for its structural study, that is after its characterization, he found that Dr. Leo Sternberg found that the exact structure of the compound, if the groups are 7 chloro, hydrogen, phenyl and N-dimethyl amine, will not be the structure 1, but it has a structure something like benzopyrimidine N oxide. Are you following? He thought first to prepare benzoxadiazepine. Yes, he prepared some compound with a functional group like 7 chloro, Y is equal to hydrogen, R1 is equal to phenyl, R2 is equal to dimethylamine group. After its characterization, he found that the compound structure was not exactly 1. It is something like benzopyrimidine N oxide. Instead of benzoxadiazepine, he got benzopyrimidine N oxide. That is, this is benzene, pyrimidine, this is pyrimidine, R1 here, R2 here, X group and Y group, So this is benzopyrimidine N oxide, oxygen plus minus plus charge, N oxide, benzene, this is pyrimidine ring, this is N oxide, R1, R2, X and Y groups, benzopyrimidine N oxide. This is structure 2. Now you see what he thought to prepare and what he got. He thought to prepare this compound, but he got, after its characterization, he found the structure of the compound was not 1, but it existed in the second structure, that is benzopyrimidine N oxide. This is the story. Next, however, both structure 1 and structure 2 with different functional groups were submitted for the study of their biological activity. He submitted for their biological activity. So he has some compounds in structure 1, some compounds in structure 2. When the structure 2 is obtained, when X is equal to 7 chlorine, Y is equal to hydrogen, R1 is equal to phenyl, R2 is equal to CH2N, CH3, CH3. When a structure consisting of these groups, its structure is not exactly 1, but it is something like 2. So whatever it may be, both the structures with different functional groups, he submitted for the study of their biological activity, and he found that no compounds, either 1 or either 2, with different functional groups are not showing any promising biological activity. Not showing any promising biological activity. Is it clear? So both the compounds, both the structural compounds 1 and 2 are submitted for the study of biological activity, and he found that no compounds submitted were showing any promising biological activity. And after few years later, at the time of his laboratory cleaning, are you following? So at the time of his so after few years later, at the time of laboratory cleanup, he observed a vial, a sample vial. Vial means bottle. A vial, a bottle, a sample bottle called as vial. He noticed that, he observed that a vial contain a compound 2. A vial contain a compound 2 with the functional groups. X is equal to 7 chlorine. Are you following? What he is doing? After few years later, at the time of his laboratory cleanup, now when he submitted structure 1 and structure 2 for the study of their biological activity, no compounds were showing. He received that the no compounds were showing any promising activity. Then he stored the compounds in a vials, in a sample bottles, and at the time of his laboratory cleanup, he noticed again, he observed again one sample bottle which contained compound 2. He stored the sample by, as he thought it has in the compounds 2 structure. So a vial containing compound 2 with a functional group 7 chloro, Y is equal to hydrogen, R1 is equal to phenyl ring, R2 is equal to CH2 NH CH3. There is a change in the group. One group has been changed, CH2 NH CH3. Is it clear? So when he observed a vial which containing a compound 2, where X is equal to 7 chlorine, Y is equal to hydrogen, R1 is equal to phenyl ring, R2 group will be the CH2 NH CH3. For the last trial, he again submitted this compound, a compound 2 with these functional group. He again submitted for the study of its biological activity. Now whatever the compound he submitted, now showing a very promising biological activity, a higher biological activity, promising activity. The second time, what the compound he submitted with a functional group changing R2 is equal to CH2 NH3. Now that compound showing a higher or promising biological activity. But the initially what he thought, it has a second structure, structure 2, and not showing any activity. But this time the same compound, initially what he thought, it has a structure 2 showing a higher or promising activity. Therefore he again characterized for its structural property. He again characterized for its structural property and suggested that the compound with a functional group, a compound 2 with a functional group, if R2 is equal to CH2 NH3, the structure of the compound will not be 2, but it is something like benzodiazepine N oxide. It is something like benzodiazepine N oxide. What happens when R2 is equal to CH2 NH CH3? this CH2 group will be inserted inside the ring. Inside the ring, a structure 2, if contain R2 is equal to C, if contain other groups, it has a structure 2. If structure 2, if contain CH2 NHCH3, what happens? He observed that its structure was not exactly 2, that is not benzopyrimidine N oxide, but it is something like benzodiazepine N oxide. What is the difference between these two? When compound 2 contain, structure 2 contain R2 is equal to CH2 NHCH3, this CH2 group inserted inside the ring, leading to expansion, ring expansion from 6-membered to 7-membered, 6-membered to 7-membered. Therefore, the group R2 is equal to CH2 NHCH3, if existed, its structure was not benzopyrimidine, but it is like benzopyrimidine N oxide. Now that is this is benzene ring, double bond N. This is benzene ring. R1 is the benzene ring. X is the 7-chlorine. X is the 7-chlorine. Y will be the hydrogen. Now coming to R2 group. Now in R2, CH2 NHCH3, R2 will be inserted inside. So leftover group will be the NHCH3. NHCH3. Now N oxide. Plus and minus. This is structure 3. Are you following? So this is benzodiazepine N oxide. Benzodiazepine N oxide. Later he named this structure as Librium. Later he suggested as a Librium. Its name, he suggested its name as a Librium. So this is about the story of it is used as anxiolytic and CNS depressant drug. Anxiolytic drug. The drugs which reduce the anxiety. The drugs which reduce the anxiety are called as anxiolytic. Anxiolytic drug. So this is about the story behind the discovery of Librium. In brief, it was discovered by Dr. Leo Sternberg. First he does not thought to prepare Librium. He thought to prepare benzopyrimidine benzoxadiazepine. He prepared. After its characterization, he found its structure was not exactly as he thought, but it is exactly benzopyrimidine N oxide, and submitted for the biological activity, both structure 1 and structure 2, and he found no compounds were showing any promising activity, and he stored the same in a vials or sample bottles in his research laboratory. After few years later, at the time of his laboratory cleaning, he observed a sample bottle or a vial which containing compound 2 with a functional group 7-chloro. Y will be the hydrogen, R1 will be the phenyl, R2 will be the CH2 NHCH3, and he submitted that compound for the last trial. He again submitted for the study of its biological activity called as screening, and a compound suggested, a compound which submitted to study or to screen the biological activity showing a very promising activity. Therefore, again he characterized its structure, and he found that if R2 will be the CH2 NHCH3, its structure is not exactly benzopyrimidine N oxide. Instead, where the CH2 of CH2 NHCH3 will be inserted inside the 6-membered ring, leading to a 7-membered ring. and finally he found its structure will be the benzodiazepine N oxide, not benzopyrimidine N oxide. When R2 will be the CH2 NHCH3, its structure is exactly benzodiazepine N oxide, where the CH2 NHCH3, CH2 is inserted inside the ring, leading to expansion from 6-membered ring to 7-membered ring. Later, he named this compound as Librium and suggested it is a good anti-anxiolytic drug and CNS stimulant. Is it clear? So this is the story behind the Librium discovery. How it is discovered? It is accidentally discovered. It does not thought initially to prepare structure 3, but the structure 3 will be obtained accidentally, and it showing a promising activities. Therefore, he named it as a Librium and suggested for anxiolytic drug. The drugs which reduce the anxiety of the human being is called as anxiolytic drugs. So with this, you have only 2 drugs which are discovered without lead, penicillin and Librium in your syllabus. So I discussed only these 2 drugs. Now after this, now we have discovered some model compound, a penicillin and Librium, which are discovered without the lead. If we synthesized or if we designed another structures based on the structure of penicillin or based on the structure of Librium, if we found a new structure which were designed with a higher activity, then penicillin and Librium become a lead compounds. So in the next topic, we have to discover lead compounds, leaders or model compounds to be discovered. So we are going to discuss the model compound, discovery of lead, in the next class. So with this, I conclude my today's lecture. Thank you.